Good evening, everyone. Blair Nightingale here. It is Stock Talk Thursday. It's time to do this once again. Excited for tonight's episode. It's going to be really practical for you. This is Stock Talk Thursday. It's hot or not. Tonight, I'm going to help you go a little bit deeper into a concept we talked about a few weeks ago. It might be over a month ago now that we looked at this. I'm going to help you find stocks that are hot and help you understand why the market is so hot right now. And the market is hot right now. It's not necessarily at a hot point to purchase. We've talked about that at length, but it is hot right now. Susan, I can see you popping some comments in there. As you guys are joining into the class, go ahead and pop any questions go along into the comments section there. I love having those. I really do. Tradeway, we just finished an awesome 4-day trader boot camp. It was a boot camp training folks how to send their soldiers money, dollars, into battle for them. Of course, that is one of the key mindsets of the wealthy. They make their money work for them. And that's, of course, what we're trying to do here at Tradeway for you. So we just finished this boot camp. And man, I am just primed up and ready to go because I'm really excited about people learning this stuff. I'm really excited about people having paradigm shifts. I'm excited about people getting excited about what's possible. And I'm excited to equip you with something else useful tonight to help you find hot stocks and not hot stocks. If you haven't noticed, we have a blend of approaches on this program. Sometimes I'm just going to pick a stock. I'm going to pick a topic. I'm going to pick something in the news that people are really focused on. GameStop, anybody? Bitcoin, anybody? We've done episodes on that to know, hey, is this hot? As I look at this as a trader, is it hot in the news or is it actually hot as an opportunity for me? That's what we look at. But I also am invested in helping you understand how you can decide. Right? Nobody cares about your hard-earned money more than you. So how can I help you decide? That's what we do here. Trying to work for the people. I love it. Jeffrey's on here. Howdy, howdy. 66 degrees. And red flag warning today in Colorado Springs. I feel like, Jeffrey, I should know what that means. I don't know what that means. Red flag warning today in Colorado Springs. I'm sure you're going to let me know what that means. And maybe I'm going to roll my eyes because I knew what it meant but didn't think of it. I don't know. Maybe not, but thank you for putting that in there. Jeffrey's the champion for attendance. We've probably got a couple out there. I don't know. Somebody might be giving you a run for your money there, Jeffrey, but certainly you are vocal on here all the time. I love it. Mario, I also see you here. High fire danger. Oh, interesting. Wow. Isn't that interesting with all that snow just coming through? I was just going to say, Mario, I'm sorry. Mario, hi to you as well. Well, okay. High fire danger out there in Colorado. Okay. That's very surprising. Well, take care of yourself. Be safe. Thanks for being on here again tonight. So, okay. That said, okay, wherever you are, Facebook, YouTube, pop those questions in there. It's right over here for me. And I will be sure to get to that as we go through the broadcast. Here's what I want to show you tonight. A little while ago, I showed you a simple website that you can go to and look at to get a really basic overview of what's happening in the market. Okay, we looked at these sector ETFs. We talked about that on a previous broadcast. Well, what I want to do tonight is just go ahead and use that tool and show you a couple things that maybe you didn't know already about the S&P 500, something we talk about a lot on here. But we're also going to look at some individual stocks in the market that actually did very well today. But I want to show you a couple of things. I don't want to explain them ahead of time because I think that's just going to be harder. I think if we actually just kind of go through it together, it's going to make more sense. But I want to take you through a process of how we can just go straight to this useful tool, okay? This useful tool just to get an idea what's happening in the market. We're going to look at some charts and tie it all together. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to share the screen here. I may have to share and unshare a few times as I use this software here. We'll see how flexible it is with what I'm trying to do. So this is this sector Spider ETF page. Okay, so now this is, for those of you who don't remember, I'm actually just going to pop this link into the comments right now. So those of you that want to follow along with me can go ahead and do that. Of course, you can see it on the screen. So you can see the Spider ETFs. Well, first of all, in short, brief, but here, what's an ETF? It's an an exchange traded fund. An exchange traded fund. So this is ultimately, if I could just make it really simple, it's a financial product that is something that tracks an asset, a stock, a company, and it's sold as just a product, right? So what does that mean? Well, we could look at the energy ETF, right? And that energy ETF, the company that's selling it owns a bunch of energy stocks, and the rising and the falling of those energy stocks inform the value of that ETF. So the ETF itself is not an oil or an energy company, but it reflects the movement of that sector, okay? That is what essentially is happening with these ETFs. So I can use that, not necessarily as a buying and selling for me. I can just use that as a dashboard to go, what's doing really well today? And this is what we looked at last time. Jane Doe, I see you there. Hello from Kansas City, Missouri. You are the first to join us from Kansas City, Missouri. At least you're the first to join us and say it. So thank you for jumping on here and saying hi. And we're glad to have you with us. So I can use that as a tool, right? And there's a lot of stuff on this page, but if I just kind of put my cursor above that first tab over here on the left, then you can see all these different tickers come up, right? XLP, XLV, XLK. We've talked about that one quite a bit. It's just the different tickers for these sectors, okay? And of course, you can see all the different ones that are on here. So we could go in and we could click on each one of them individually. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll down to the sector tracker, okay? And I'm just going to look at, well, it's pretty easy to see. Most of it was positive today, which makes sense because the market closed up today. But what I'm really looking for is the extremes, okay? That's the first thing I'm doing. I'm just looking for the extremes. And this is a little bit of review, right? We did go over this already. So energy way down today, right? In comparison to everything else, down, okay? Now, 1.3% in the sector isn't, catastrophic by any means, but it was decidedly lower than anything else today, okay? Whereas technology did quite well, okay? Technology, so what can I do? Well, something really simple that I could do is go, oh, okay, technology is performing really well right now. And if I go into this full sector tracker here, just give it a second to load. It's going to bring up the chart we were looking at. It is just taking a sec here. Hopefully our Leo Freeman, hey, I see you there. Hello to you too, sir. Welcome. I love some good Kansas City barbecue. I have a very good friend from LA, from Kansas City, and she raves about the barbecue too. I can't say I've ever had it myself. So that's something definitely on my list. So what are we looking at? Well, I just went to a new page where we're looking at the exact same thing we were just looking at. Because why? Well, this is showing us what happened today, okay? But to give us some better data, maybe we ought to just go like that. Hey, what's been doing well, right? I can change this and see over time what's been doing well. Now, let me just be cautious here. I'm not suggesting that I am going to make a final buying or selling decision based on this. That's not what we do here at Tradeway, right? We are going to go to that stock chart and do 99% of our work right there on that stock chart. But I'm giving you something that's a simple tool to get an idea of, hey, what's hot and what's not right now, today, this week, this month, okay? What is happening, okay? And obviously today we saw tech. If you go over to this, nope. Just have to give this a second to load as well. By the way, I can see Susan. She's the queen of doing this. She's just tagging names over in the comments there. If you know somebody who you would think would want to hear this broadcast, you can go ahead and tag their name in there. If they've got a YouTube profile, if they've got a Facebook profile, you can put their name in there, and it won't obligate them to do anything. It'll just notify them that you were letting them know that you were in this broadcast and you'd like to share that with them. And that could be something that's really useful for them to be able to view this broadcast. So they've got these neat tools on here, right? What's really heating up? And of course, what it's showing us is technology, right? Technology today, again, that was the biggest one. But what's really heating up? So there's some interesting tools here, but we're just going to keep it simple. We looked at tech, and tech was doing well. It was decidedly well today. Now, there's a few things I want to say about this. Let's jump over to this page here. If you guys have never gone over to Investopedia, if you ever have, say, a definition, something that you hear, right, and you want to know what's the answer to that question, this is a really easy resource to go over and just get a ton of interesting information. It's not necessarily going to go really deep. It's certainly not going to teach you how to apply it. But as far as terminology and some information goes, this is where you can get some really good know-how. Jump on over investopedia.com, and then you can get this information. This is where I went tonight as I'm just trying to get some specific data on the S&P. Now, this is something I bet a lot of folks didn't know, and I'm going to tie this all together. Remember, I said it's going to make more sense as we go along. I talk about the S&P 500. So if I go on over here to our chart, here we go. That's what I wanted. Boom, there's our S&P 500, right? We look at that at least on Monday or Thursday, one or the other, once a week. This is what we call the market. Let's head back over here and see what Investopedia has to say. The S&P, or Standard & Poor's, that's what it stands for, index, or simply S&P 500, is a market capitalization weighted index. Real fancy term to say this is an index that has 505 U.S. stocks, large capitalization, big U.S. stocks, okay? This index accounts for 80% of the market value of the U.S. equities market. Now, I'm going to skip ahead here, okay? It is often regarded as synonymous with the market. And you'll hear us say that all the time, right? The market. I'm just laying a foundation for you because I want you to catch this next part, okay? I've talked about this before when we talked about tech stocks, hot or not. Not every sector that we look at here is weighted the same in the S&P. Some of them affect the market measurement, right? That index that we just read about. Some of them affect that index more than others. So wouldn't it make sense to us to pay a little bit more attention to the ones that tend to move the market more? Now, it's not to say we're going to go buy those stocks, but if I'm projecting and looking at what the market is more or less likely to do, why wouldn't I look at those stocks as well? Okay, this takes a little more work, but it's going to give us a little bit more vision, a little bit more understanding of what the market is likely to do. Because again, if I go back here and look at the S&P 500, it just told us S&P 500 actually has 505 large cap US stocks, okay? And not all of those stocks, it's not 505 with everybody gets a single vote, right? Some of the voters, if you will, right, have multiple votes, whereas others don't. So certain stocks actually affect the movement more than other stocks do. Okay, this is important. So let's keep going here. The 10 biggest stocks in the S&P 500 make up 20%, 27% of the index market value. Okay, so those 10 stocks actually account for a ton of the value in that index, and 10 of them are weighted much heavier. Well, what are the top 10? That's what I want to show you tonight. What are the top 10? Okay, because this has an intense influence on what the market index does every day. All right, go ahead and throw. Oh, still seeing this. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. It's not switching over with me. I appreciate you saying that, Jeffrey. Okay. My fears have been confirmed. I'm going to have to just share this again. I apologize for that, guys. Let's go ahead and do this. And ultimately, what I was showing you, I'll give you a reference here, is this page right here. And I'm going to go down this list, and then we're going to go look at them in the stock market on the chart. But really what I was just showing you is this page right here. Okay, so you didn't really miss anything because I was really just reading and giving you this information. So you've got that. But I want you to see these 10 top weighted stocks in the S&P, all right? Making up 27% of the index's market value. So these are huge. So this is going to be interesting. The weighting and market cap is of February 27th. So that's when they're telling us they did this math and did this work. So let's look at the Apple for a second. Okay, that's number one, by the way. This is the heaviest weighted stock in the S&P. Does that mean that if Apple goes down, then the market index has to go down? No, not necessarily. But there's a few stocks that if they are all going in the same direction, and you'll notice that a lot of them are in the same sector, okay? So they're pretty closely tied. If they all go down, that's a pretty heavy weight on the S&P, okay? So it's important that we know what these are, hot or not, right? Are these stocks hot or not? The direction of these stocks, imagine if you had the skill set, have a little watch list with just these stocks in it, and you were able to chart these stocks, and you knew the pattern that these stocks were in, and you had a general sense, right? We don't have to spend all day, but you had a general sense of what they were doing. Could that be something that might actually help you in the stock market? It could. It could help you with what we call market tone, right? Market tone. So Apple's number one, Microsoft, almost the same weighting rather as Apple, not quite. Amazon from there, Facebook. Now, for some of us, this is a revelation, right? We didn't know. We thought, oh, they were all, Jeffrey says still seeing, oh, I'm sorry. That was the same note, Jeffrey. Okay. I thought you were saying you were still seeing it a second time. For some of us, we didn't even know this happened. We didn't even know that this was the difference, right? We just thought, okay, here's the base level, market. Okay, the market went up today. The market went down. Here's another level deeper. The S&P 500 went up, went down. Okay, that's 500 of these large cap stocks. Okay, let's go a little further down. Oh, the S&P 500 is in an uptrend and it went up today. Let's go a little further down from there, right? Our understanding is getting deeper that it's good now. I see you there, Jeffrey. That these stocks, actually the top 10, account for a huge amount of influence in the S&P 500. But what if I just took a look at those every now and then? It's like looking at a dashboard, right? We learn to read the instruments, and it's all part of our plan. We can get so busy and look at so many things and make trading so complicated. But if we keep this simple, we're going to go over here. I'm going to stop the share again to make sure. Well, actually, let me finish going through this list. But I'm going to show you just how I would do it on an actual charting software and keep it simple. Facebook, there's another one. Alphabet, another one. Did anybody get the sense that these are all a little bit similar? Wait a second. Apple, okay. Microsoft, okay. Amazon, Facebook, Google, okay. Google has two different kinds of shares, by the way. That's why they're on here twice. Okay, different shares. Tesla, okay, that's the first one we've seen that's a little bit outside of that tech, right? I mean, you think about a Tesla, and it's maybe one of the most tech cars we can think of, but it's not tech, is it? Right? We've got a lot of tech companies. Berkshire Hathaway, think Warren Buffett. Obviously, this is his baby. There are also two classes of shares for Berkshire Hathaway, by the way. I'll show you what the price of their Class A shares are in a second. JP Morgan. Okay, so now we got some finance in there, a little bit different. Johnson & Johnson. Okay, now we've got some industrial almost stocks in here, that pharmaceuticals and things like that, consumer products. So a little bit different there. So let me go ahead and just close that. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to share again, make sure that y'all are with us. Jeffrey shaking my head, yes. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at those. So I want to make sure we stop for a second and get this. Okay, so this is a simple tool that I can go, okay, let's take a look at number one. I can look at the sectors and I notice the tech stocks are up today. They're doing quite well. Okay, I also know that the S&P 500 has more heavily weighted stocks in it. And those heavily weighted stocks, they almost all seem to be tech. Not all, but almost all tech. So wait a second, isn't that going to be really strong on the S&P? Well, it was. Today it was up. You say, okay, but how's that going to help me in the future? I mean, it's one thing to look back on what happened today using these tools, but what do I really do with that? Well, that's why I said we still don't make decisions based on just these things, okay? I might use these things to help me narrow in and understand market movement, but I'm going to actually go to the chart and do the work there still. And that's what I want to do with you today too, okay? So I'm looking forward to diving into some of these. Now, I just listed off the top 10 weighted stocks. So let's just go through these really quick, okay? I might have some old lines on some of these. I'm just going to go ahead and clear them off. I mentioned that we did a boot camp this week. For those of you who are in the boot camp, maybe some of you are joining us tonight, you know, there's a pattern on this side of the chart that we actually talked about. Where is my square? It's down here. Right in here. Okay. That is actually looking a lot like a W, right? There's a W pattern. Now we have specific criteria and specific rules that teach us what is and what isn't a W. And of course, where would I buy it? Where would I buy the stock? Where would I get out of the stock? But that is looking like a pretty good W stock. And a lot of times that's where that happens. You get an uptrend, it breaks down for a while. It's a pretty strong stock, so you don't expect Apple to go down for too long. It gets a nice move down below this 100-day moving average, starts to recover pretty explosively, right? And it's no wonder that the tech industry was up. I should say the tech sector, and the overall market was also up. Very strong movement in Apple. That's going to have a pretty big influence on that index. Now, obviously, we're talking 6%. It alone isn't going to move the S&P 500, right? It wouldn't be a very good index if it was just one stock pushing the whole thing. But you'll notice, and we've talked about this on here before, when you see tech moving pretty strongly up or down, okay, we had a lot of volatility while tech was getting crushed the last month. So it has a pretty big effect. But there on Apple, we can see a pattern there. So coming in and getting an understanding, hey, what's going on in these stocks? If you start to just pay attention to them a little bit, you have some skills to chart those stocks, you can use that information to help you in your trading. Microsoft, okay? Again, I said I'd have some old lines on here, and you can see, you know, let's delete this guy. We had, if I squish it down, make it easier to see, we had an old trend here, didn't we? I would say we could even kind of bring this guy right through here. And then it blasted off, right? Just took off for a bit, comes back into that 100-day, and it's kind of just been going sideways. Really hot in here, okay? So not a ton going on here in terms of a pattern, you know, a little bit of rolling for a bit there. For those of you, we talked about this on Monday, a rolling stock, but just kind of a mess, recovering. We had some sector rotation going on, and then it's just gone flying ever since. We get a gap in Microsoft. Of course, we had a gap in the open of the S&P as well today. If we go back here really quick, there was a gap here as well. A lot of these tech stocks gapped. S&P gapped up this morning. So really hot. But this is kind of up into no man's land. Now, this is where we get practical. If I start looking at all these stocks, right, we've only gone through 2 of the 10. We're going to go through them all. What if we see all of these stocks way, way up, right? Stocks don't go up forever, okay? It's like we talk about it like this. It's like gravity, right? Stocks hit support and then they pivot. They hit support and then they pivot. And the further they get from those pivots, the more energy it requires to keep the stock price up there. So it starts to act like gravity, and eventually the market's going to pull back. How would that be helpful to you? Because if we look at all these stocks and we notice, whoa, these are really extended from support. Well, it stands to reason then if a lot of them look like they're due for a pullback, that could have a pretty big effect on the market. Do I want to put a lot of money into the market if it looks like I just described? I hope you're agreeing with me and saying, no, I don't think so. That doesn't sound like a great time. The S&P is in resistance. These stocks are really extended. That's not to say it won't go up tomorrow. We don't know that. But that gravity, sooner or later, that gravity is going to kick in, especially if they go up again tomorrow, right? We don't want to guess, gamble, or go for it. We want to find good stocks at support. So this is helpful in giving us some of that information. Here we had another gap. Okay, here's Amazon. Another W. Okay, this pattern actually had it's a little more messy on the W, but the trigger for this particular pattern wasn't today. It was previously in the week. We'd already passed through that, but definitely showing that same W pattern. And that's how we do these trades, right? We're looking for a pattern that helps us identify support and resistance. So especially too, if we see Amazon coming into, and it's not obviously today, but here's another thing to consider. If a stock like this is going to come into resistance, right? We've got some resistance here, back here. What if we come into some here? We could pull back for short term, right? Pull back, that gravity kicks in. That's also going to pull on the market. So that's interesting to know. Gosh, all of these just zooming. Okay, this one was in a bit of a wedge here. Now, a wedge pattern, for those that don't know, is it's either an upward or a downward wedge. But just to put it quickly, you've got lower highs, but then the same lows, right? Those aren't really getting higher or lower, are they? They're just going sideways. But then this one's coming down. Well, right here, it finally broke out, right? It tends to channel back and forth in the wedge, and then it finally broke out, which is what we would want to see. Then what? Jeffrey can vouch for this. When we break out of a wedge, what are we looking for? We want to see it break out, pull back, and then follow through again. What did it do? Broke out, pulled back, followed through, and it's just been like that smokestack ever since. No rest. Off it goes into an all-time high. So some gravity there as well, right? Not a clear pattern because it's just got that floating smokestack. It's very difficult to get into a trade like that, which for a lot of new traders, right? Or traders that, they have a brokerage account, they're not really trained in trading. They might say, that's really hot. This is one of the things I say to you guys all the time. Just because the chart is up doesn't mean it's hot today for us as a trader. Our job is to manage risk, not chase price. So when it's floating away, it's difficult because we want to get in because it's floating away, but we may have missed the best entry already. And so to go and hitch our wagon to that star when it's that far up is a surefire recipe for what we call chasing, meaning we get in late. As soon as we get in, that's when it falls. And then we get hurt. We don't want to do that. We don't know when that's going to happen. So it's never guessing, gambling, or going for it. I'm just going to quickly check, make sure we don't have any questions. Good. Looking good out there. If anybody does have any questions, of course, just go ahead and send those in. Here's Google. We're in a nice uptrend for a while. Google has earnings gaps, uses old resistance as new support, also getting very extended, right? Getting way up there. A little bit of a pullback off that gap today, but not much, right? Not much. Tesla, this guy, this is no surprise, right? We're looking at, let's just put this in perspective here. We're looking at March of last year. Okay, let's not even do that. Let's go April 7th, or is it the 8th today? I think it's the 8th. April 8th. The price is approximately $105. $105. And just last month, well, actually, that's not true. January, February, it's up to $900. $900, almost 10 times in less than a year. So when you see that happen, remember what I said about gravity? Well, big lift. We got some bigger gravity here, and this thing went down to almost $500, right? It loses almost half its value. So very volatile chart. But today, Tesla is up, right? Just barely. Tesla was up today. Next one up, I'm going to show you this. Berkshire Hathaway, right? This was number 7 on the list. It's in a strong uptrend, right? How can you use this to your advantage, guys? That's how I want this stuff to translate. So, don't want to do that. Let me go here. Just slap some real quick lines on this guy. You've got an uptrend. It's making highs that are higher and lows that are higher, okay? Here's the actual trend. Now, it came up and used these moving averages here. We've talked about those a little bit, but here's the actual trend. So we came down into that line and we're up there. Would you say that is getting kind of far from that line based on the bounces that we've had in the past? I would say so. We've had some that were bigger, but I would say so. So for me, I'm going, okay, we're getting closer to needing a pullback. It's what we call reversion to the mean, right? Sooner or later, gravity's going to pull it back to the middle, okay? We don't know when, but we know that it's going to happen at some point. And so that is part of how we manage risk. So if I notice as I look through this entire list, hey, a lot of these just don't look like they're very near support in their patterns. Well, then that is information that can be very helpful. And of course, that's the whole point tonight. You know, very similar, right? We've got that big uptrend starting to go kind of sideways. This one, not quite so extended, is it? I mean, it is in this overall, it's been performing amazingly since November. But now we're just kind of going sideways for a while, okay? Kind of going sideways. For those of you out there who have our training on credit spreads, you might understand some of the things you can do with stocks that are moving sideways, right? It's an options strategy. We may do an options preview for you guys in the weeks ahead. We've got a bunch of stuff planned going into the summer. So I want to get to some option stuff for you, for those of you who are specifically interested in that as well. But they help us have some extra tools when the stock is doing some unique things like maybe just going sideways. Because when we buy stock, we don't just want it to go sideways, do we? We want it to go up. We need it to move. And options can help us be in a stock and actually be profitable when the stock isn't moving at all. In fact, in some cases, we don't even really want the stock to move. If the stock just stays nice and boring, that's perfect for us. It can move up, it can go sideways, we're happy, but it doesn't have to move up. It can even go a little bit against us, and we're still able to be profitable. That's the cool thing about options. That's outside of the scope of what we're looking at tonight, though. That's JP Morgan. And of course, Johnson & Johnson. We get lots of questions on this one. Check this out. It looks like maybe a little bit of a mess. We had an uptrend, sold off for a bit, and now what do we have? Well, we kind of got this guy right here, right? Got this trend coming in. Is it going to hold there? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. If all 9 of these other ones start to fall, I bet you that one's going to start to fall. Keep in mind earnings, right? But I'm not going to guess. I don't know. We're just going to watch it and see. That's where it's at right now. So it's nice to know these patterns. So let me just recap. Okay, I see your comment there, Jeffrey. I'll comment on that in a second. Let me just recap here. Okay, what did we look at? What's a quick and easy way I can go and look and see what sectors are doing really well? And then I can actually look and see what stocks are in that sector. Okay, what stocks are in that sector? And then I can go, and if I want to, I can take them and I could chart those, right? I could find a potential trade in that hot sector, right? Why not grab on to the sector that's performing really well, okay? At the same time, I can also go, well, what's going to happen in the market? Well, I can't guess. I don't know. But number one, I'm going to look at the S&P 500 pattern, which we do on here all the time. But I also know now that I've listened to this episode tonight there are 10 stocks. They account for a majority, almost, not quite, but for 10 stocks out of 505, they have a very significant amount of influence over the movement of that index. Wouldn't it make sense that I look at those stocks? If they're not hot, then that is bearish, right? If they're in bearish patterns, just go ahead and watch what happens to the market because they're going to have an influence. So it's a very interesting tool, right? Number one, we always say at Tradeway, our number one indicators are price and then volume. Okay, price is king, then volume. These other things are nice tools, but the price action is the number one. Okay, so that's what you want to look at. Jeffrey says, idea for a future hot or not tokens. I did some reading on this earlier today. That's so interesting that you bring that up. What they are, should we be interested? They're trendy like Bitcoin. I see it on Instagram. People are posting about these things. So thank you for sending that in. By the way, Jeffrey's just responding to something I've said the last few weeks. If there are some things you guys are interested in learning about, I'm always happy to build some content around some of the conversations that you're having in the trading and investing world. Would love to do that, especially when there's a lot of buzz around it, hot or not. We're going to talk about that today. I hope you got something out of this to know how can I go out there, just take a quick look. Takes a little bit of practice, bring it into my skill set, right? This doesn't replace learning to trade and having that skill set. It's just something that you add to it. You can always head over to tradeway.com. Right there on the main page is our events. You can join us for our step 1 online. In fact, we've got one coming up. I'm pretty sure it's this weekend. We've always got them recorded and we've always got others coming up. So even if you're not able to join us this weekend, you could still join us another weekend. This is going to give you our entire foundational system for trading stocks. This gives you an opportunity to ask questions, go deeper, and we're even going to load the course into your own online video on demand library so you can go back and keep rewatching it. It's got workbooks, quizzes, questionnaires, all the stuff that you're going to need to get this stuff down pat. That's what you want to have because it's going to help you navigate the markets. Why just learn a little bit about the markets when you could get involved and learn how to do it safely so you can stay in the game and do, as we say, live to trade another day. Mario said, one of the coaches mentioned it a few weeks ago. What is the tool that gives you a list of stocks that belong to a certain industry? Well, ultimately, you've got a couple. One of them we looked at tonight. Now, we pulled up the sectors. If you click on one of those sectors, remember, it's just the ETF. It's going to show you what stocks are in that ETF for that sector, okay? You also, if you've got charting software like you've seen that I've used, we also use TC2000. For those of you who are in our programs at Tradeway, you'll see us use a charting software called TC2000, something we train a lot of our students on. That has the ability to automatically pull up industries and sectors, okay? Industries and sectors as well, and it'll show you all the stocks on there. For that, we would need to dive into the software and go through a couple of steps. But I showed you one tool tonight that you can use, so go ahead and jump onto that. I will just quickly do this just for convenience. Pop that in there for you to go over to that website. Okay, guys, thanks so much for joining on here. We'll be back next week. Of course, we'll be here on Monday. I appreciate all you guys. Send this on over, like it, share it. If you want to get updates, make sure you're subscribing on YouTube, liking on Facebook, joining us every single week. We've got all kinds of stuff coming your way. Great free content, inviting you into some of our courses as well so you can take that step to the next level. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much and have yourselves a great night.